Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have a new friend of mine, Mike Kunard. Welcome, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Good to see you.
Great to see you. Great to have you on here. Just so the listeners know, Mike and I met probably, I don't know, a month or so ago, but
Yeah.
I feel like we've been, following each other's posts and things like that on social for a while. But Mike is with Hidden Step Marketing, and um, we'll go into it in more detail, but he is representing some really innovative products in the decking arena. And yeah, just really excited to share your story, your background, and how you got to where you are with all these cool innovative products to share. So Mike,
Yeah.
go ahead and start telling us about your background, please.
Yeah. I like even have to apologize. It's managing multiple social media accounts. I think there was like a 5-day old message on TikTok or
Oh,
something when before I got back to you. And it's there's so many connection points now that honestly, be part of my story. And I'll probably say it 15 times in this interview. But there's been three pillars of branded products, particularly in outdoor living, that I've been taught and trained on, which is make a better product and then tell people about it and make it easy to buy. Those three things. And telling people about it has never been easier or more affordable in today's world of social media. But at the same time, there's a boomerang effect on that where, let's see, I've got 2 Instagram accounts, a couple of Facebook accounts, 2 LinkedIn pages, a couple of TikTok accounts, and direct messaging, text messaging, multiple email addresses. It's like, I'm going to get back to you, I swear.
where did I see that message is what I always go like, I know
Exactly.
it popped up somewhere and I
Yeah.
can't find it. Where am I going crazy?
Yes. So,
I think 5 days is fine. Don't worry about the 5 days.
good. Thank you. It's been a good month since then. So been able to connect right with a few different people and in our businesses as well. So that's good. But yeah, actually this month I just celebrated 5 years of Hidden Step
Fantastic.
Marketing. So I started just kind of looking back, it's like, what were you thinking? So I was unemployed in 2020, April of 2020, and June 5th, I kind of got like a signed LLC from my uncle, as it would be, signed the final paperwork as an attorney for me. So I started a business wanting to help inventors and small businesses, and really, I'm not an inventor. I'm not even being in the building materials industry. I'm not a carpenter. Not a I don't do the calculus. I don't do the geometry well, but I've been in this industry, and there's a lot of those craftspeople who come up with better ways, to put something together or to hold something together. And in all of my career, I've worked for relatively, compared to Wall Street, say, smaller companies, and we've had the opportunity to grow. And as I was, trying to make decisions for my career and well-being and take care of my daughters, like the most fun I ever had was at that early stage of a manufacturing company in the building materials industry. I was with AZEK Trim, who's now right Timber Tech and all of that, but I was like the 11th salesperson hired in 2004, and we were a $30 million trim company, and nobody could say our name right. Aztec is what everybody called, like the hunchback car, Pontiac Aztec. I thought that should have been our fleet company or something, or our fleet car. But I stayed with them for 12 years, and we were $500 million by the time I left, and multiple acquisitions and the like.
By
So
the way, I know about funny names and not saying them right with synced. So
yeah, right.
yeah.
100%. It's a K. Get the K in there. So
uh,
I went after, inventors and small companies that had little to sometimes no revenue, but as like a national independent representative, I don't care about titles, but I'll help, you figure out packaging, I'll figure out testing, I'll figure out marketing and branding and
Hmm.
supply chain and distributors and pricing and margins and all of that. Um, but how do you get paid? And mind you, this is the beginning of COVID, so nobody can travel, nobody can get displays, which also was a really low cost time
Yeah.
to start up because people didn't have the expectation of, fly to Pennsylvania and show me the samples. I could literally pop them in the mail and then set up, a video conference. Um,
Hmm.
but again, the business model of starting with, brands that are doing zero, well, I don't care if you pay me 80% commission. If they're at zero, they're at zero, right? So anyway, I worked with some partners to figure out, a reasonable, kind of fractional compensation employee program and or not employee, but somebody to help and partner. But that was what I really wanted to do. It was I've met owners that never, like, nothing went anywhere. There was an older guy in Canada who, God, I think I have the sample somewhere. I don't know if I can reach it, but he made basically a bit that goes into a drill that ties together the wire to pull rebar together.
Wow.
It's called
Yeah.
K. I just remembered it. It's called K Twister, and he sells these things all over the world, and it's like the best tie bit to tie up rebar. And I
Oh, that's
proposed a
so
program to
cool.
him, and
Yeah.
he rejected it, and then he wanted to sell the company. And then I met another guy in Canada, who I thought maybe would be interested. I think he actually drove 4 hours to look at the business, and suddenly I'm like a real estate or a business broker with no
Oh.
license, right? But it's just there's a ton of cool stuff that, like, I would have loved to triple that guy's business between his 70 and 75, and be able to sell it for something more. Like, that's the dream of hidden step marketing, is taking an inventor and being able to crush their expectations in a good way, right,
Yeah.
and be well known, and maybe have an exit, maybe not, but just build something far beyond their dreams, and then be able to provide for their families. And so I've been able to meet a lot of really cool inventors. I've got a couple in Australia. I've got an entrepreneurial group in Italy, northern Italy. I've got a father-son duo that I work with out of Minnesota. Dad's been in the metal fabrication business for 40 years, and he's teaching his son, coming up the
Oh,
ranks
that's
on
so
what
cool.
things are. And then I have a perspective that's been shaped by Sherwin-Williams. I probably learned more about Sherwin-Williams, and as huge as they are, after I left and went to work for smaller companies, because I saw things we were trying to implement at. So I was at Trex in 2000 to 2003, and we were expanding our manufacturing. We were talking about low cost production, brand. I mean, it felt like we were putting 50 cents on every dollar into brand marketing campaign, and talking about supply chain efficiencies. We went on allocation,
Yeah.
and that created its own pain. And I can look back at Sherwin-Williams and see, like, maybe where they went through those difficulties of where they had ironed all of those things out, because now they were at the time, a
A larger.
$10 billion company or something. But
Yeah.
I could see the steps we were trying to take at Trex that were, well-oiled machines, if you will, back at Sherwin-Williams, to kind of
Yeah.
enhance that early, you know, job responsibility. I mean, they tried to put our sales reps as a racehorse, right? Just put the blinders on, and you're going to call in a 20-mile radius, and you get 150 accounts, and just go make 10 face-to-face sales calls a day. And then working at AZEK, who was smaller than Trex significantly, and not in the decking space, in a different space at that time, and then see everything that they evolved to, and just been able to incorporate all of that, all of those experiences, but wanting the. There was a time where I said, like, I can't, I have learned and acquired a good skill set from some great mentors, but I'm not the zero to something. I literally had a kind of a moonlighting program with some guys out in California that wanted to reinvent the home inspection
Okay.
process and make it
Yeah.
like that. And we just were a little limited on the tech side of things. But they wanted me to go all in, and I literally told them that, hey, I've been on some great growth trajectories, but I can't do zero to something. And 2 years later, I was
Yeah.
unemployed, starting zero to something.
Uh,
So
well,
apparently, I just
but
wasn't
that
properly motivated.
but that's your own thing, I
Yeah,
think it is different.
yeah,
And you're taking a an already finished product to the next level rather than starting with zero. You're helping companies that
yeah.
have a product already.
Yeah, we've been able to do some from zero.
Oh,
One of
okay.
them from Australia, the deck divider. I
Yeah.
actually sourced manufacturing here in Minnesota, injection molding.
Okay. Oh,
Got the
I didn't realize
packaging,
that
got
that was
the
zero to something then.
3PL. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it
We're
did
doing
have
it
to
right
be
now.
something that you were passionate about. And
Yeah.
um well, yeah, tell us a little bit about the deck divider then,
Um,
while we're talking
so
about that
I
one.
mean, I have to kind of go back to the root of it, because Mark Benecke is a deck builder and inventor out of Australia. And I met him on May 15th, 2020. Had first Zoom with him.
Okay.
Just, remember it was also my oldest daughter's birthday. And it was during COVID, so we got off the lake to go have a Zoom. But he's the inventor and patented the spigot for IG railing. So the base mount that has a hole drilled in the bottom of it to take and accept an LED light. He
Okay.
founded that, and so we've been building that business, really since 2020. First goal on that was to get testing ICC certified, which we did. And then it's build out national distribution, and that's what it is with a lot of these companies, right? It's make it easy to buy.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if this is truth or legend, if you will, but there's a mythical 3,000 out there in the U.S. where, based on population density, if you have 3,000 physical locations where you could buy a branded widget, then I
Okay.
think it feels like it's easy to buy and hit that enough of the population can get it within a 20-minute drive or something like that. Like
Okay. Oh,
Sherwin
that's an
Williams,
interesting, yeah.
as big as they are, was after 3,000 stores
Okay.
to do that. So I think decking manufacturers think about that. If they have 3,000 stocking dealers, well, then it's easy to buy, to be able to
Okay.
get through to that. So, with Mark and a team, Pat and Julie Noonan, and now Bobby Parks, and Luke Armbrust, like, we're building this out nationally, and we're at about 60%. I just had a good talk with another distributor filling out some open space that we have in the Pacific Northwest. We're about 60% of the U.S. where there's product in stock, and lumber yards can order it, for their contractors, and get it in a day or two,
Yeah.
and make that go. So that's what we were doing. And so then Mark in 2023 came to the U.S. for Deck Expo, and he showed me this, additional spacing tool. And you slide 5 of them onto an existing Irwin or DeWalt or whatever your brand is of hand clamp, and now you can perfectly gap out, spacing between the deck boards, like 5 boards by 20 foot long, and you prep it and it's perfect. It's like within a millimeter,
Hmm.
even if you're adjoining another 20-foot board into it, or doing in sections. And if you've got breaker boards that are going in between to create different different effects or different zones in your outdoor living area on the deck, this tool, instead of using individual clamps and moving them and doing it all from your knees continuously, um,
Mm.
this is just, it's an efficiency and accuracy tool that we're just bringing to market. We launched 3 weeks ago. We built a shop on our website at
All right.
thedeckdivider.com.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to make them in our garage. Thank God we're not. I found I found a assembly. shipping, 3PL logistics here in Minnesota. That's amazing. And there we saw a pallet of product produced last Wednesday, and it all
Awesome.
shipped on Thursday.
That is cool. Oh,
So yeah, so that's just some of the things that we're doing. And it's I look at obviously the vendor partnerships, and I'm not trying to take anything, or everything for that matter. I need, I have a space that I have knowledge in, and it's, outdoor living products. And but there's a lot of aluminum railings out there. There's a lot of glass railings out there in the different segments, and particularly the glazing channel, which is
mhm.
different than where we operate. Um, there's different suppliers, dealers, resellers, all of those different things. And what I want to partner with is someone that's truly believes in what they're doing, and provides a differentiated value than what's out there today. And I've been fortunate to be able to find those customers, or they sometimes now find me, and create a long lasting partnership.
Well, tell our audience a bit more about IG railing while we're,
Yeah, I
continuing on that. Yeah.
so if you look at so when I was at Sherwin-Williams, I hashtag category shift. It's just my own little brand thing.
Mhm.
It's got like 220 right posts, if you will. It's not a very popular hashtag, but I do it on everything that I do, because I've seen this progression of performance in products throughout my career. So I was at Sherwin-Williams, and we introduced Duration. It was the first lifetime warranty, won't peel or blister paint, and we couldn't call it paint. It was so advanced that we had to call it a coating and a system and different things like that. And the market was
Okay.
at $18 a gallon. This is back in the late 90s, for their best product, and this was at 50. So
Yeah.
18 to 50. I mean, it was a jump. And like our best contractor's discount price was, 48.50.
Yeah.
whereas typically, right, somebody who's buying, a couple $100,000 with you, I mean, if they're prime products that they use every day, right, there's going to be a more significant discount from a retail price.
Mhm.
But not with this one. This one was
Well,
special.
because it was so different, and
Yeah,
and again, I guess it's a balance between, you know, it's because it's made differently, it's a different product, it lasts longer, it has to be more expensive because it's more expensive to make.
correct.
But if you're if you price it with the same kind of discounts, then you have to charge a lot more, and maybe you price yourself out of the game.
Right. And so, I think this was, I was just a sales rep, one of probably 7,000 sales reps in the country. So I didn't have great insight to the marketing launch of Duration, other than being a part of it. But they were, in my mind, I think they were driving a category shift, right? And
Mm,
they were trying to get paint. And there was so much vinyl siding throughout a lot of the US that paint companies lost. They used to get the inside of the house and the outside, but with maintenance free siding, they started losing that. So wanted to put something out there that would have a similar
that would compete.
performance perspective.
Yeah.
And so I saw that, and then at Trex, it was a conversion sale. It was replacing wood that wasn't performing as well as wood used to, or
Hmm.
maybe going after the stain, market, that nothing lasts more than a year, and all of that maintenance and rot and the like. And so we were, when Trex started, even when I was there, which was, several years after they started, um, if you looked at a pie chart of, what percentage of decking is wood, I mean, in the beginning in 2001, probably, or 2000, like composite wasn't even a category, right? And so, we, ended up creating a category within an existing segment of business or application.
Yeah.
and we shifted that category, right? We did that at Trex. Same
Yeah.
thing at AZEK. When you looked at what are people using for exterior trim, there's vinyl, there's metal, there's wood, there's composite, but there wasn't a PVC category. And so AZEK created that category by branding a product in that space so that they could measure it. If you don't have a branded product in the space that you want to analyze, well, then how do you measure it?
Yeah.
Right? And I don't mean singular product, but products. How do you measure that? So IG, sorry, long story long, as I
That's
tell my
okay.
kids,
Yeah.
um, is that in our segment, I mean, I went to Principia Group and said, hey, I see your railing category breakdown, and 68% is wood, and aluminum made a big gain, and now they're 13%, or whatever the numbers were. I'm like, there's an other category, and I'm gonna, again, I said earlier, I'm not great at geometry, but I they don't get, it was a free snapshot of the report. You have to buy the report if you really want the numbers, but I'm
Yeah.
like doing the math and looking at the angles, and okay, if that one's 45%, and I'm looking at this thing going, I think your other category is 9 to 11%. What do you think about that? And is glass in there? And she said, you're pretty close on the percentage, but glass is not in there. And I'm like, so you're
What
not
was glass
measuring
included
glass,
in?
so you're
Yeah.
not measuring glass railing as a percentage of the total residential deck, outdoor living. Like, you're not measuring that. And she said, no, how would we? Would we go to the float glass producers, like, Cardinal Glass, but then they sell it to one company and then they sell it to another company and then it gets installed
Hmm.
by like, how do you track that? And so, that's, I mean, we had the brand IG and we were started, but it was kind of that conversation where I'm like,
You
there's an
didn't fit in
opportunity to do a
anywhere.
category shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, right. I mean, so that's what we're working on, right? Is building enough momentum out there in the market with getting distribution, going to events, winning, being on the couple of covers of Deck Specialist magazine, like 2 out of 3 issues this year.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's great, and contractors and dealers and our suppliers are putting us out on these projects and submitting us to to be a part of it, and winning some awards at the NADRA Deck Awards. We I think we've got a few first places and some seconds and some thirds in the last 3 years, like 8 or 9 plaques, which is just incredible. Um, and so we're made a better product. Thank you, Mark. He made a system, from Australia, which is like all glass
I was
railing
going
in
to
that
say
market.
Mark in Australia. Yeah.
Yep. And so, he gave us an opportunity to partner in ownership with that and bring it to market to the US. And, we're telling people about it and we're making it easy to buy. And the added value is that, I mean, when Pat Noonan, domestic partner, here in the business, we mapped this thing out in like early 2021, and we're like, okay, if there's 2,000, 3,000 dedicated deck contractors that are building more than 20 decks a year in the US, like, if we can get one that has the perfect view and the right budget and all of these things, and then we get some landscape accounts, we get a little DIY, we get, that's how we built our first forecast, thinking that contractors would use us 1 out of 20 times. What's
Yeah.
been amazing and really propelling our growth at IG is that, I mean, it's very attractive. I don't know, we can insert photo of projects, I don't know, but igrailing.com for listeners, and go to the gallery. But it's beautiful to look at. It's actually affordable compared to custom glass railing because we're standardizing the offering, and it works like every time, on any size project. There you go.
Just doing a little sharing here.
Thank you. But we're getting it out there, and contractors are giving us feedback. I'm getting those DMs from all over the place, TikTok and Instagram, and they're like, this is the easiest railing to install that we've ever installed. So
Wow.
now,
Oh, so that
yeah,
feedback is
and
coming through. That's
that's that
amazing.
added that's that added value in that, it's, and we didn't know that, like, it seemed simple, right, as we're packaging it and pricing it and testing it and everything. But in the early stage, we're like, I don't know that this is gonna, really, you know, somebody's gonna do 5 of these in a season. But they're trying to. And once they do one, the confidence is so high that they're starting to lead, and maybe not for the entire deck, but for that front view,
Yeah.
maybe not on the sides where you have neighbors, and we're seeing an increase in like privacy screens go up and different things like that. In more higher density, neighborhoods. But that front, what you want for the view, like that is going, and people are leading with this because it's a great look. It helps, if the contractor is doing social and, building and branding their business, they want cool photos, right? And beautiful shots of work, to inspire people to hire them for future projects. But they're really pushing on it, and it's
Well,
awesome.
it's funny that that you talk about, how contractors are seeing it and then clients are wanting it. I mean, I've always felt like, the wood railings can be so, because wood is chunkier, as
Yeah,
opposed to like the cable railings and things like that. But it often kind of makes the deck feel separate from the rest of the landscape, the
yeah,
outdoor space, because
right.
it's so chunky. And um but I mean, this IG switch is kind of like the best of both worlds. Like, you can have it on private, or you can have it clear. And you know you're not obstructing the view, which is huge, I think, for when you want it. I think the glass just opens up, um, you being outside and feeling like you're outside, as opposed to being in an enclosed deck. So,
Yeah, there's a highly respected contractor really throughout the country. I think Deck South. They've I know last year they were doing kind of a series of the benefits of having light and space and view. And they were even at a hospital, and I know there's been testing done of comparing, rehab rates of, if you've got 4 block walls that you're looking at versus a window view, like the recovery rate of having window view, having a clear view, to connect with your outdoor environment, is significantly higher. I don't want to put too much in that because I don't have all of the receipts, as they would say today, or all the details. But I've seen several different studies on it where, um, keeping connected is just better for your well being.
and it looks, well, because it's kind of invisible,
Yeah,
you're removing railings from being a style so much. I think
right.
it's more neutral in any space. So,
I agree. I mean, it's, again, and we've evolved. Our customers has helped us evolve, how we position, how we make our literature, how we, market the product. Because in the beginning, I would say, um, I thought it fit a certain clientele, or a certain design style that would be, modern. But we're seeing it on log cabin A-frames because it connects. I'm seeing it on the interior. We sold a job in Alaska, and it's his kind of catwalk that overlooks on the second floor, that overlooks the high side of the A-frame, looking out at a great Alaskan landscape.
mhm.
And they installed it, interior. That's not modern.
Well,
We're in the last
exactly.
frontier here, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't get more rustic than Alaska, in my opinion. And so
But
we're
it's
able to.
neutral because it's invisible,
Right,
and
exactly.
it's serving a purpose. Because I mean, you just can't remove railings, because
Yeah,
of codes, because of safety reasons, all of that. But this is doing so much, keeping it neutral in style, blending in any style, and giving you the protection, but also giving you, like at night, like in some of those photos, a
Yeah.
really great feature if you want to light it up, you know. I
And
guess you don't have to, is that right? It's
right.
an
Yeah.
optional addition?
Sometimes like in like a concrete, project, how do you wire, because it's an under the system, a pull of the lighting. It's not like a solar or a light that's powered into each
Mm,
of the hardware components of the spigots. It's a daisy chain type of system that goes underneath. So unless you had a conduit, a lot of pre-planning, right, that went into it. It would be
okay.
difficult to do into a cementitious, substrate. We're looking at alternatives to that with another brand partner of mine called NIL Building Solutions, NILL, Building Solutions, and they make every connection stronger and waterproof. I don't care if you're putting solar on panels on a roof or if you're doing glass rail. And so they're,
Huh.
even shower pans. I've had a handful of different webinars with some kind of mutual clients or clients of mine that I think would really benefit from their system, their attachment system. And
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
neat.
there's like
Okay.
nothing they can't do, from connecting to a difficult substrate. And so they're working on some things for us. They have one right now that gives no pressure on a tile set, and so now it's just a matter of kind of managing the lighting system, underneath that. If there's a tile system that's on a pedestal,
Yeah.
right, you're going to have some airspace that's underneath the pedestal system.
Yeah.
Well, then in theory, right, we could pull the lighting underneath there, but it is sold
Yeah.
separately.
So many
So
clever things happening. So exciting.
yeah, it is. It really is. It really is.
Well, I feel fortunate that we connected, because I think that, you know, we are, as a team, get so excited about innovative products and helping, you know, landscape professionals just, first off, hear about them, but
Hmm.
also the next step is, okay, how do I educate clientele about it? How do I actually install it? There's a lot of hurdles to using innovative products, when they're new,
Yeah.
and like you're saying, IG railing right now, the light up form of it is more for decking because of these issues, but you're starting to solve them through connections already. So
we
with
had
nil,
we had a we had a project in Washington that was actually, I would say more on the landscape side. We had a
okay,
contractor that, oh my gosh, he poured like 38 footings on a perimeter, like a property line that overlooked, woods and lake and water and all of the things. And he actually used us as a fence, as a perimeter line. Didn't, no light, no lighting. I've had a few
yeah,
projects that are really out in the woods, and the customers say, "No, I've got my own lighting. It's called the stars. It's called, it's a dark zone, right? Or northern lights." They're like, yeah, I don't need your lighting. I have nature's lighting.
have nature's lighting, yeah,
But
but still
yeah,
using
no,
the railing, yeah,
so there's opportunities to do more with that, and get into additional applications. And then like my partner Vetro does a different, railing system. I happen to have a piece of their base, but this is a base shoe, highly
okay,
engineered system that can be applied to, this would be a hole to do like a fascia mount.
okay,
So like on the outside, curb, if you will, of a
yeah,
of a balcony. This is more driven with balcony projects, and you're using much thicker glass than you use in a residential application. This
okay,
is what you see high rises when you see glass balconies. You may just kind of see the glass or a top rail or something, but what's below it sometimes actually buried into like a concrete base, so it's just glass coming up
yeah,
from the
but much
substrate,
more, yeah, much more
something like
robust.
that. And
Okay,
there's opportunities to collaborate between, this glass rail that has a Miami-Dade certification with the right glass put into it, and and IG railing, being able to, give the contractor that accepted IG railing, but now has, a different project, or a higher elevation, or, something
Mhm.
that's intertwined, and give them another easy to install solution. Again,
Yeah.
putting the nil in between both of those glass rail systems.
Yeah.
And then if they have a deck that we can perfectly space with the deck dividers,
Oh, look at
and
it.
if somebody wants some aluminum rail to run down the stairs, because they just want a lightweight product that's, easy to put in there, I've got that with Cadence aluminum railing. It's really, and then we can, show all of it on synced platform,
Yes, yes, awesome.
right? So
Well, those of
that's
you
the
listening,
bundle.
we'll include links to all of these brands in the show notes. So I'll get that from you after this
Yeah,
to make sure
thank
that
you.
our audience can look up
Yeah,
these products
I
and
should.
learn
I
more
suppose I
about it.
should set up a walking tour, of just, this product, this product, this product, this product.
Well, we can do that
I
next
need
time. Yeah,
I need to
let's do
find a
that
big
next
enough
time.
wall to show everything. But
Oh, yeah. Well, this is, I mean, so what is your view, maybe your take on how things have progressed over the last few years in technology and what you see for the future of our industry? What
I, I,
what
I
can
think
you say
it's.
about that?
I mean, I think I think we're doing okay, as an industry of accepting, technology, whether it be AI that I increasingly hear, people using for proposals. I use it all the time. I've got a contract. I need to write a warranty. I need to, you know, um, sometimes I use AI just as a, uh, I don't have 50 employees. I have a lot of associates and the like, but sometimes it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm want to bounce something off the wall, and I'll throw it into chat, and suddenly that's another thought process, or another, thought resource, if you will, to figure things out. But um, you know, I think the future is bright in the sense that, there are more inventors and solution driven people that have easier access to set up a shop. One of the manufacturing partners for us in the deck divider. So we're making the spacing tool itself, and the contractor already has a clamp, but there's end clamps that you modify, that actually hold majority of the pressure. And there's a company out of South Carolina called Deckmaster J and Jeremy Wilkins, and um, he's basically contacting all of these contractors. Is that where are you stuck? Where do you need a better jig to do a stair rail for this brand of product? I'll make it. I'll do 3D printing. Like I'm seeing a lot of
Oh, that's
different,
neat.
companies that are incorporating technology, and then there's a good share mentality in outdoor living. I mean, it's there's a family, side of things, that we go to these shows, and it is just, hug after hug after bro hug after bro. I mean, it is just, I love it. I mean, it's great. And I think that's, sharing ideas, that's sharing insights to tech. There's, sharing promotion. I mean, there's you see some negative comments on some stuff, and certainly some people probably have reputation. I, try to be benign from that, but just a ton of support. And I know that there's, hey, this person is in, Northeast Florida, and this contractor is not far from them at all, and they're collaborating.
Yeah.
Um, there's just I think we're using, social media good for storytelling. Just like this, opportunity, we're seeing some legendary deck builders move into the space of sharing other people's stories. So, like, Jason Russell of Dr. Decks, and Wood Bully, Gordon South. I mean, both of those guys have a million followers, and yet they're bringing other, manufacturers, they're bringing other tradespeople, they're bringing lumber yards,
Mhm.
suppliers. Like, they're bringing all of these people together on podcasts and YouTube channels, and different things to share the story. So, I think where we're going is good from a community perspective. I think we're
Yeah.
grabbing technology pretty well. I think everybody wants to do better from a efficiency perspective and from a sustainability perspective. Um, there's a partner called named Brian Iverson, and if you go to thermalstuds.com, um, that is one of the most exciting future things that I see. I mean,
Mm.
leave it to contractors that can build a net zero house efficiently, versus a multi-billion-dollar company or development company. Leave it to us that can actually, do it, and want to do it for the right reasons, and then scale it. Then we'll give it to your, whatever group, and scale it out. Um, Carbon capture is another interesting thing. I was chasing a company that seems to be doing most of their business now based on available resources in the Middle East. So they don't need a U.S. representative if most of their projects are, you know, thousands
Well,
of
maybe
miles
not
away.
yet. Yeah.
But not yet. Oh, don't worry, I'm there. But Partana, they're finding alternatives of sequestered, carbon capture that can be used in a mixture for concrete products, whether it's brick,
Mm.
whether it's pavers, whether it's driveways, whatever it is. It's no different. When I was at AZEC, we started recycling our regrind or our scrap that was made in
Okay.
manufacturing, and we started at like 3%. When I left, which was 10 years ago now, we were at 30% of reintroducing a recycled product into it. There's this carbon capture that's happening in the cementitious space where cement is supposed, is like a 21% contributor to whatever we don't want in the air, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a dirty business. It's needed. So there's a lot of tech that's happening. I know
Mm.
5 different companies that are looking to, commercialize and scale the availability so that people can do a ambient cure versus ovens, right? Which generates a lot
Okay.
of
Heat and
resource or heat
yeah.
and energy. And I've seen 31% to I think 50% like contribution of recycled
Mm.
product and a whole system. So I'm excited about some of those things that can hit net zero houses, high performance,
Yeah.
and all of those things. So I think it's good. I think it's good.
Awesome. The future is bright.
Yes,
Oh, well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us today and l- letting us hear about, first off, your journey, but also, you know, the innovative products that you represent. And we look forward to helping our audience learn more about it. We'll get some more info for you from the show notes. And yeah, thanks for being on the show.
absolutely. And I just remembered, and I don't know what it is, August something. I have a meeting scheduled with another Australian, and they are making a composite. Um, um, Again, it's just adjacent from, I would say, my expertise. But if
Okay.
they want to bring it to market, but it is a not a oh, I can't think of it. It's
Oh,
it's like a shelf support, if you will, like a composite if you wanted to terrace a steeper hill, and
oh,
kind of build it out.
so
And
like a retaining structure.
yeah, it's like a composite retaining shelf, if you will, that's doing
Mm.
really well in Australia. And I mean, we talked in like September, and both of us were so busy. We're like, let's just book something out. And so we booked something for like August 6th. So that's coming up, and that might be
Oh,
hopefully
well, we'll
that's
have to
something
do a
good that we
second
can.
version of this
Yeah,
podcast then.
yeah, yeah. Maybe we can get the owner on and work out our schedules. So thank you so
That
much.
sounds great. Great. Great to have you, Mike. And yeah, look forward to working with you more.
Same.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Angelique.
you.
All right.